Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Ending Physician Overwhelm. I am so glad that you're here. Today, we're going to be talking about what I wish I could have heard after I finished residency. And of course, I'm not sure I would have listened to me because what does this old bird know? But I think that we don't get enough of the right kind of messages when we leave residency. I can remember back to my faculty advisor. He was an older man, had been in practice for quite some years. Excellent family physician. But I remember each year through residency, he would keep saying things like, well, second year is easier than first year. Don't worry about it. And isn't second year easier? And then, well, don't worry, third year will be easier. And I didn't feel like things got easier. Certainly I knew more, but especially for primary care, right, for family medicine, the amount of stuff that we could potentially learn is pretty infinite. And I happen to train and work at a place for many years where family medicine does an incredible amount of the care. Lots of procedures, lots of complex management. I know that that's not the same in all settings, but we really were very hands-on, doing a lot of things, and there was always more to learn. Now, certainly that is not unique to family medicine or primary care in general, right? There is always more stuff. But what we don't really get to talk about when we leave residency is how we need to change the way that we think, right? Residency, fellowship, medical school, those are all relatively finite situations, right? You're going to be here for a certain number of years. You're going to learn a certain skill set, right? There are certain competencies that we have to pass through, right? And then you're out on the other side where there are no duty hours. There is a lot less oversight in terms of people looking after your well-being, right? If there's anybody out there at all doing that. Things are quite different. And yet, if you, like me, was a really great resident, right? Someone who was accommodating, flexible, hardworking, always willing to pitch in and do more, right? I remember as a third year chief resident, right? I was often just filling in the extra shifts myself, right? Rather than ask somebody else to do it, right? I will just handle it. If you, like me, came out of residency and felt like it was still time to earn gold stars and it was still time to impress people and keep working at that pace, this is the conversation for you. And I hope I'm catching you earlier than I'm catching myself. All right, so let's dive in. All right, so here are a number of things. I've got 5 things written down, but we'll see if I don't come up with more as we're talking. But things that you really need to understand once you leave residency training. Number 1, Prozac is not a mental health plan. What do I mean by that? I mean that slapping some medications or even some therapy onto yourself and just treating it like that's sufficient is not going to work when it comes to figuring out how do I take care of myself in this complex, people-centric work where I'm dealing with real humans, real emotions, real disease, real stress. How am I going to take care of myself? And of course, as the deliverers of care, especially if you are socialized as a woman, you are often asked more questions by staff and by patients. You probably do provide care that is very high quality and probably more detail oriented, right? That is what the studies show. If you're a surgeon, you are probably providing more complex and more safe care compared to your male colleagues, statistically speaking. Because of that, we can't just treat our mental health as something we can just slap a pill on and walk away, right? That is trying to address the absence of disease, right? The absence perhaps of depression symptoms or anxiety symptoms. And don't get me wrong, you may need that, right? A lot of physicians are on antidepressants, sadly, but that is not sufficient for your mental health. You also need boundaries. You need proper support to do the work that you do, and proper support at home, whatever your other responsibilities are. And you need rest. Prozac is not a mental health plan. All right, number 2. Your needs don't match the needs of other people, meaning specifically your colleagues. When we are in training, we are treated as though everything needs to be fair and equal. And perhaps this has changed to be more equitable, right? Which is not the same thing as equal. But everybody sort of needed to be the same, needed to do the same number of shifts, needed to have the same sort of sets of resources at a baseline. So we became socialized to think that that means that everybody has to do work the same way, and then it's going to look the same for every single person. My friends, this is not the case when we are out of training. What you need may be different from your colleagues. And it's true that big medicine hates that. It hates that some people might go faster or slower than other people. It hates that some people might really dive into more complexity and do more detailed care than other people who are able to churn through patients more quickly. It hates that somebody might not choose to work full-time, even though it knows that full-time is typically maybe 80 hours a week for most working physicians, when even if you work part-time, you're probably putting in 40, 50 hours minimum, right? Do the math, add it up. You'll see what I mean. We need to stop pretending that we are all the same. And we need to set up boundaries for ourselves so that we can honor our own needs, right? If you are more introverted and more empathic, you may need to have some protections in place so that you can protect yourself and take care of yourself, because the emotional burdens that you carry are going to be different than the emotional burdens of someone else. If we double up and we are doing something that is perhaps more emotionally complex, like cancer care, hospice and palliative care, where we're dealing with giving people really bad news on a regular basis, that might be cranked up even more. Now, again, unfortunately, our healthcare systems want to pretend that we should just be able to do full-time work, no problem, no accommodations, no consideration for what we need. That's their problem. And what we need to decide for ourselves is how much we're willing to work, what we're willing to say yes to, and to be very clear that when we want to say no, we're going to say no. And again, that might not be relevant to a particular emergency type situation, right? I'm putting that aside, right? If there's a code, you're not going to say no. But what I'm talking about is when we get pushed to join a committee or any number of the things that we get voluntold to do, right, to be a team player, we're going to need to say no, and you're going to need to say no based on your own needs and resources, regardless of what other people are doing. Again, that is tough in big medicine, but unless we do that, we will continue to drown. And I know that people here listening to my words right now know exactly what I'm talking about. I know that many of you have chosen to leave big medicine, right, and to take other opportunities so that you can create the future for yourself. And I just want to emphasize that because you are so used to working in the ways that you have been pushed to work, you're going to need to do this work too, where you sit down and decide, what are my needs and my resources, and how can I find the right amount of work that allows me to create a sustainable career? Number 3, you are the only one looking out for you and the only one overseeing you, sort of, and the only one who can give yourself permission to take care of yourself. So when we are in residency, in theory, and I know everyone's experience is a little bit different, right? But we've got faculty members who are not only supervising our education, but they are also supposed to be looking out for our well-being, right? They're supposed to be keeping the feelers out to make sure that people are meeting their own basic needs, right? If you have a resident who seems very depressed, very anxious, right? They sometimes need to get tapped on the shoulder and hopefully offered help and guidance, right? So that they can get the accommodations and the care that they need. If someone is really clearly overtired, right? Hopefully they are going to be tapped out and allowed to rest. Now, I know that's a big ask. And I know that all of us have had experiences where that's not true. But just to say that part of that overseeing role is not simply educational, but it's really someone who's looking out for you. And hopefully you had an experience of at least one faculty person who really had your best interest in mind. But when we leave residency, we no longer have that older mentor over us. And it's very easy to continue that hard driving work ethic without having someone to tap you on the shoulder, right? Because many times our colleagues are not going to tap us on the shoulder and ask if we're okay. They might. We might have a supervisor, a boss, a manager, someone who might step into that role, but many of us do not. Part of that is the socialization of medicine and wanting to pretend, well, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to insult them. I don't want to imply that they're not doing an okay job. Or sometimes it's not wanting to acknowledge somebody else's stress because we might have to tap in and look and see that we're in distress too. There's a lot of reasons why this happens. And unfortunately, as we have to talk about far too often, right? We lose excellent physicians every year. So many, too many to suicide, right? Did somebody tap them on the shoulder? Was somebody looking out for them? Did somebody try and intervene? I don't know. I don't know how often that happens. And if it didn't, it should have. We need to be looking out for each other, but we also need to have our own back. We need to realize that if we are overly tired, if we are overly overwhelmed, if we're so anxious and exhausted and depleted and just feeling like there's no end in sight, we need to look out for ourselves. We need to say what's going on is not okay. We need to be able to say, I need a break at a minimum, and be able to take it, because no one is doing that work for us in a regulated sort of fashion. Regulated is not the word. In a compassionate, emotionally sensitive, empathic way, right? You might have regulation. You might have some of that, right? You might have a boss tapping you on the shoulder and saying, why aren't you signing up for more committees? Why aren't you participating in X, Y, and Z thing? They might tell you you're not being a team player, that you have a bad attitude. They might tell you all of those things. I've shared the story many times of being what I call dragged into the principal's office about my attitude, right? And what they told me was that I needed to shape up, that I needed to be kind and respectful, and that maybe I should put a pretty picture on my desk and then I would feel better. That's the level of support that I got. And I'll tell you, that was absolutely the tipping point where I said, I cannot stay here. I will not do this anymore. And ultimately, I needed to look out for myself. Ultimately, I needed to engage with some different things. But I can't tell you how disheartening it felt to be ignored as a human being and seen only for my stressful behaviors, right? If you get caught yelling, throwing things, being rude, being late, being quote unquote insubordinate in some way, right? The actions are often punitive when they ought to be empathic. They ought to come from a place of, are you okay? I notice that you're not acting like yourself. I encourage you to look out for yourself, to look out for others, to recognize when you're getting snappy and irritable that you are not yourself, and that that is a sign that you need something. You probably need more than one something, but you're the one who's going to have to look out for yourself. All right, number 4, there's no more gold stars. In residency, in medical school, perhaps in fellowship, probably not in fellowship, to be perfectly honest, right? There's ranking systems. There's a sense of accomplishment, right? If you were the one who scored the best on, I don't know, step 3 or something like that. There's all this sense of competition, although it often needed to be friendly. And if you were socialized as a woman, again, you probably wanted to do well, but not in a braggy, showy way. And so maybe you even held yourself back, right, from getting all the gold stars you could have gotten. But all of us are high achievers. We are highly driven people, driven by external factors, external validation. There are no more gold stars, or at the very least, there are no more gold stars that are worth stressing yourself out about, right? If we are working in Epic and you have that startup screen that gives you all the greens and reds of HEDIS measures and maybe Press-Ganey, I don't think Press-Ganey was in there, but all the things that you were doing well on or not doing well on, that screen is meant to tap into your gold star seeking mentality. They know us, right? I don't think any of the staff had those kind of stats, right? You need to see that for what it is. It is trying to reinforce certain behaviors. And I'm not saying that that is all wrong. We do want to be following evidence-based guidelines. We do want to be making sure that people are up to date with cancer screenings and vaccinations. All of those things can be important. But we don't want to keep thinking that I need to get the top score in all of these metrics. Because when we do that, we will never, ever win that game. And I dare someone to tell me that I'm wrong. I dare you to tell me that you can be a well person who is living a sustainable lifestyle in medicine and meeting all of those metrics with greens everywhere and getting top Press-Ganey scores. I don't think that that's possible. And I'm not advocating that you dismiss any of those things. I'm not advocating that you ignore feedback. But what I am saying is that you're going to have to give yourself the encouragement and the validation that you're doing a good job. You're doing a good job for the resources that you have, even though you would probably design the system different. Give yourself gold stars if you have to. If you want to make a little star chart for yourself, and give yourself gold stars for finishing more of your notes on time, right? Leaving work at 5:30 when your last patient left the door at 5. Give yourselves gold stars for things that help to bring sustainability and fun and joy. Give yourself a gold star for connecting with a patient in a human moment and for also setting boundaries. Give yourself your own damn gold stars. All right, number 5. Stop treating your body like it doesn't matter. In residency, in medical school, sleep deprivation, eating donuts in the break room when you can find them, or whatever crappy food is in the cafeteria, fueling yourself with coffee, those are all the name of the game. Those are not great behaviors at any time, but residency is finite. We are going to be in residency for a certain amount of time, and then we're not. and you are working an incredible number of hours in the stress of trying to learn and do at the same time, right? It is a particular kind of pressure crunch, and again, it is finite. When we leave residency, we have got the rest of our career to have sustainable and hopefully healthy lives. And that is going to mean that you need to get sleep. You need to fuel yourself with good nutrition that is right for your body. You need to exercise and move your body so that you are not constantly stuck at a little computer screen typing or stuck hunched over in one position in the operating room, getting terrible neck pain. You need to take care of your human body. You need to empty your bladder. You need to take sick days when you are sick and febrile and vomiting, right? You need to take care of your body and start treating it like it matters, because it absolutely does. I think all of us could come up with stories of ways that we have pushed our bodies or our minds in some way that wasn't healthy, that wasn't good for us. And probably most of us have regrets over doing that in some way. Hopefully not big ones, but let's not let it get to that. Let's take care of our bodies and really show ourselves that we matter. All right, there's my 5 things. I'm going to run through them one last time. Prozac is not a mental health plan. You need boundaries, support, and rest. Number 2, your needs don't match the needs of other people's, and let's stop pretending like they do. You are going to need to advocate for what you need and to find a way to take care of yourself with that regard, right? You need to find a way that you can work in a way that works for you. Number 3, you are the only one looking out for yourself, and you owe it to yourself to look out for yourself, to notice when you are feeling overwhelmed, overrun, and get the help that you need, the rest that you need. Your life is too important to waste. Number 4, there are no more gold stars coming for you. You are perfectly welcome to give yourself gold stars, but give yourself gold stars for the right thing. Give yourself gold stars for working towards a more sustainable career that emphasizes high quality patient care, but ignoring all the crap that gets thrown at us about what they think it means, right? Do good work, but also set boundaries, set limits, have reasonable expectations for the resources that you have. Number 5, stop treating your body like it doesn't matter. Your body, your health, your brain, they matter. Sleep, eat, move your body, get health care, right? Go get your checkups and your mammograms and whatever else you're due for. Take care of yourself. This would not be exactly the way this talk would look, right, if we were actually at a residency graduation. I'm going to fully acknowledge that one. But think about what that would have meant to you if you could have understood these things at the start of your attending career, right? If you could have understood what parts really matter and how you are going to need to treat yourself like the important person that you are and stop earning the damn gold stars. If you were the top resident, if you were the good girl, if you were the person, right, who made it all look easy and now you're drowning, I want you to re-listen to this. And then I want you to go back to the September 2024 episodes where I talk more about sleep, I talk more about moving your body, I talk more about nutrition and stress management. Go back and listen to them and treat that like a workshop so that you can start to put those pillars in place and take care of yourself the way that you have always deserved but just never understood that you needed. My friends, I'm sending you so much love. I'm sending you so much gratitude for listening And I really, really want the best for you, but no one is going to hand that to you. We have to do this work ourselves. I'm here to do it with you. I am doing it with you. And just know that you are not alone and you are not broken. Until next time, take care. Have a great week.